So I really love N8 and it's very powerful. I can also build agentic workflows without having to wire up a bunch of tools, adding schedules, triggers, retries, and hoping nothing breaks. Now, before you even go ahead and automate anything, you need an AI that can actually behave like an assistant, okay? An assistant that can think through a task, create role work, and know when it's done. So in this video, I'm going to show you a simpler approach using Claude Code. It's a hack I recently came across. So I'm going to show you how we'll build an AI assistant together that will plan before acting, produce multiple useful outputs, and remember everything that matters. And once you get this part right, automating in tools like anything will make complete sense, right? But if you skip this part, then you're just going to be automating chaos. So let's get started. Now, before we get into the build and everything, I want to really define in plain English what agentic behavior means, because I know that a lot of people have different meanings to what agentic behavior really is. So when I say something is agentic, what I really mean is that it's an AI that shows certain type of behaviors, right? One of it being the fact that the AI has the ability to like plan before acting, right? So it doesn't just like blurt out answers, it just makes sure that it's planning. And as we build our personal assistant, you see some of these characteristics being shown in Claude Code. Another important characteristic of agentic behavior is really taking multi-step actions, right? And what I mean by this is that it produces several useful things and not just one paragraph. And again, you see that as well. And another characteristic again is following rules and constraints, right? So if you define that it shouldn't do this, like you have guardrails and everything in place, and the AI is able to follow that and it sticks to the processes you define inside your prompt and all that, then you can also say that it's exhibiting some form of agentic behavior. Now, the other thing is like creating artifacts, right? So if it's able to do stuff like create files, draft checklists, real work products that you need, tangible stuff, then you can also classify that as agentic behavior. Now, another important thing to note as well is memory, right? So if it has the ability to remember context, save what matters so that you can reuse it in the future, then that again also is some form of agentic behavior. And then finally, it should also have like a clear finish line, right? So it knows exactly when to stop because you've given it a goal. So it should be able to know when that goal has been achieved, right? So it knows that clear finish line. And that's also another characteristic of agentic behavior. One important thing I want you to note as well is that agentic doesn't automatically imply automated, right? So you'd see in this tutorial that there's still some form of like we going into manually trigger stuff. It doesn't necessarily mean that the fact that we are manually triggering something doesn't necessarily mean that it's not agentic, right? Agentic behavior is all the things I've mentioned in here. So let's get started. So when you come into Claude Code, right, the desktop version, so you have the chat interface, you have co-work, and you have code, right? We are interested in the code bit of it. Now, when you come in here, we just want to start a new session and we want to basically create a fresh folder where all our files and everything will reside in. So we want to start afresh. So I'm just going to click on choose a different folder, and then I'm going to come in here and I'm going to create a new folder. And since we are trying to build a personal assistant, I'm probably going to call it personal AI ops, something along the lines of that. Okay, right? And I'm going to click on open. What this means is that everything we do would now reside in this particular folder, right? So we are just basically giving our agent a workspace, like you're handling, just think of it like you have an executive assistant. You're basically handing them like a filing cabinet so that they can basically do the stuff, everything they need to do in there, right? Right now, we are not really doing any code here. We are just setting up a system. So that should be fine. And like I was saying earlier on, if you don't use the Claude desktop, then you can use the web version. Maybe you have to store the files and everything on GitHub or somewhere else. So the next thing is we are basically going to sort of paste in this prompt. And what we are trying to do here is we are trying to create a few folders, right? So we are going to have like a folder for like inputs where like raw notes would go into. And we're also going to have like a folder for outputs, which is basically where all our outputs would be. Would also have like a folder for like documents where we would basically put all our instructions. So if you look at the structure of the prompt I have in here, so I'm like, you are an AI agent setting up a personal AI operations assistant inside a folder, right? And I've talked about like, I want to have all these three folders. Now remember the definition we gave about agentic behavior. It should be able to create files and all that for us. Likewise, it should be able to create folders for us, right? So we wanted to create and populate those files in this folder. So in the docs folder, we expect to see a file called agentrules.md, and we want to see another folder called runbook.md. So I'm going to hit enter here. and it's going to ask me to trust the workspace. I'm going to say, I trust the workspace. Now, this is the first agentic moment we are going to see here, right? So you can see that it's sort of saying, I'll create the folder. It's asking me for my inputs here, so I'm just going to say yes. But we are seeing our first agentic moment here, right? I didn't ask for advice. I didn't say, give me the definition of this. What I basically did was that I sort of like delegated a set of tasks, and I'm expecting raw artifacts at the end of the day. I didn't have to like manually go into my computer to manually set up these folders. Like Claude Code is going to do everything for us. And once this is done, I'll show you where all the files are right now. You can see that all these directives have been created, right? So if I go into my computer right now, I'm expecting to see these directories inside my computer. So I'm just going to go in there so that you have an idea of what Claude just did. It's amazing, right? So all these files have now been created on my computer, which is why it's sort of like dangerous. Like if you are vibe coding, you have to be very careful. Like if you are using like a desktop AI assisted like application like Claude Code or anti-gravity to vibe code, you need to be very careful because you may end up deleting folders or deleting stuff that you probably didn't intend to delete because they have power to do all that, right? So you can see that I have my agent rules file here created for me, just like we instructed Claude Code to do so. Okay, so this has been created for us. So let's move on to the next step. Just in case you are new here, my name is Stephanie and I build and teach AI agents, AI automation, AI workflows. And in February, I have an upcoming N8N lab. So if you're new to N8N or you want to start building AI automations for your customers, for your business, for yourself, then you'd want to join my N8N automation lab coming up in February. It's a 6-hour session, but it's going to be over 3 days. And by the end of the last session, you should have like at least version 1 of your AI workflow ready. So it's going to be very practical, very hands-on. If you're interested in joining this lab as well, then I'm going to leave the link to signing up in the comment section below then so that you can sign up as well. Also, I'm going to drop the prompts and everything I use in this tutorial in my school community. So if you're interested in joining my school community, I'm also going to leave the link to that as well in the comment section below so that you can go join that as well. Now, the next step is where I'm going to put in my first raw input, right? Remember, we have a folder where we put our inputs into, and then we have a folder where we have an output for, right? So I'm just going to basically paste this exact prompt, right? So this is my first input file, and I expect that the agent should be smart enough to know that this should go into inputs. Well, I've defined it here like create a file input/meeting note. So it knows that it has to go into the inputs folder. So this is again, you giving it a goal and it's being very smart enough to know that, okay, this is where everything goes. So I'm just going to hit enter in here and then would expect that we would have a file in our inputs folder called meeting notes, and it would have the details we have in there as well. So this looks like a really small note inside like a meeting note, but in here you can basically feed your assistant with any messy stuff, right? Your messy reality. Like if you have a lot of things, you can basically like feed it in here. Like the whole point is that you don't need to format this, right? So just as raw as it is, you just basically need to sort of like input it in there as well. So we'll go back into our computer and see if this file was created as well. So I'm going to come back in here and let's see. So I'm going to go into inputs. So you can see that the file has been created for us. It's sitting pretty inside our folder as well. So that is good. So yeah, so if you have like more than one messy meeting notes, like you can always have it in your computer, your drive. You don't need to like upload it to Google Drive. It can sit in your computer and Claude Code can do its thing for you as well. Many a times when we talk about like building AI agents or agentic workflows, it looks like it's so complicated. But even if you're non-technical, this is how you can basically leverage Claude Code on your own desktop computer to do magical stuff, right? You don't need to be building like a full-blown like full stack application with Claude Code. You can basically do simple things like this with Claude Code as well. So the next thing is, remember we had like a rules file that we created in the beginning, right? So what we want to do is we want to make a plan, right? So I'm going to basically paste this exact prompt in here. So let me explain what I'm doing here, right? So I'm saying that read the docs agents rules.md files and then the meeting inputs file here and tell me exactly what you create in output and memory and why. Do not write to any files yet. So I'm going to hit enter here, right? And let me show you why this again is agentic and fascinating. Like most AI would just output stuff immediately, right? If you go into ChatGPT and you just put in stuff like that, it will just output stuff immediately. But look at what it did, right? It basically gave you like it read through files. It's giving you the steps in which it took, right? So it did a pre-file check. It read through the files, realized that, oh, it has like 47 lines. And it's also saying that it read through line 1 here. And it's telling you exactly what it's going to do, right? So it's saying that this is what we are going to be creating. So it's giving you all the steps, right? What the deliverables are, what it looks like. So this is how you get reliability, right? It's telling you that content will include this and everything. So even though you asked it like instructions, like it showed you exactly what it did. This was the instructions, right? It's like, tell me exactly what you create in output and memory and why, right? So this is what it said. Like it said that this is what will create an output after it read the files, right? It didn't just go straight to giving you the output. It showed you that, okay, we read files and based on everything we saw, this is what we are doing, right? So it's responded to us the way we wanted to. So that's great. So it's like ready to proceed when you say so. So that's really good. Let's move on to the next step of like building this personal assistant we have here in Claude Code, right? So now we want to do something different. Now we want to basically generate the outputs and then save them in the right files, right? So I'm going to come in here and I'm just basically going to copy this. Okay. And this is also going to be like the second agentic moment we see. And you'd see that it will be able to create multiple work products at once, right? So let's see what we get. Again, it's telling you what it's doing. It didn't just go ahead and give us a response. It's telling you that this and this is what I'm doing. So now it's saying that it created both files. So if we go into like the output folder, you see that it's created the formula summary. If we go into memory folder, we'll see all this as well. So let's go and see, right? Two files have appeared for us. One is readable, one is structured. So let's go back into our folder and we'll come into the memory folder here, right? So this is a structured JSON file we see here. And if we go into our output folder, we'd also see an output in there for us as well. So I expand it. You see that we have this file created for us as well. So this is good, right? We've gotten our outputs, which is readable, right? Things we were expecting. And we've also gotten the JSON file as well in the other step. Okay, so now that we have all these two files, now it's time for us to use whatever we built here like a real assistant, okay? So let's paste this exact prompt in here, okay? So this is basically we saying that scan everything inside memory and tell me who I owe follow-ups to, what deadlines are coming up, the top 3 next steps I should do now, keep it short, right? This is the real payoff we see of everything that we've done because you're no longer asking, what do you think? You're asking what's on my plate based on your own saved work, right? So you've already saved stuff in memory based on the instructions that was defined in the agent root.md file. So whatever output we get in here is going to be based on our own data sets, our own information, our own saved work because it's able to retain memory and it's able to always have the right context. So that's great. So as you can see, it's saying that it scanned the memory results and it's saying that you need to basically send a workshop proposal plus sample agendas to Sarah. And then the top 3 next actions is to send proposal to Sarah, send 2 sample agendas, send a reminder to follow up next week if she doesn't reply, right? So this is super cool, right? Remember that agentic workflows should always have memory. They should always have context. So this is great. Now we can even go ahead and add like a second input type in this case. And let's see what happens, right? I'm going to paste this in here and I'm going to explain what I'm doing here. So this isn't really now about meeting notes, right? Because I'm saying that I need content ideas for this month, prep for my N8N lab, follow up with 3 leads, and I keep forgetting to post. Also, I should clean up my landing page. I only have 5 hours, right? And what I want to do is I wanted to basically run using the same rules it had from the beginning from the agent.md file, and it should give me like a 5-hour week plan, right? With time blocks, because obviously now it has context about everything that is happening now. I've also given it rules in my .md file. So let's see how it's going to help me with like everything that comes with it, like prioritization, realistic planning, and execution help, guys. All right. So it's saying that done. It's created the output for us, and the output will contain 5 bullet summaries, action items, and everything. So if I go back and I go into this output file here, and I go into that brain dump output file, let me expand on that. You can see that it's done a brain dump for me. It's saying that, okay, this is everything I need to do, right? I need content ideas for the month. I need my N8N lab prep work. I need 3 leads waiting for follow-up. Like I have all these things that I need to do, right? If I go into my memory here and I click on this structure here, it's giving me like the JSON file and everything. So this is really cool, right? Okay, so this is the simplest form of agentic workflow you can think about, right? I trigger it when I want it. I can review every output. Nothing runs in the background. No credentials to maintain, no API keys and all that, right? I know you're using Claude and you're just paying for Claude, but you don't have to, like, if you were using like an external tool, right? Like you need to call APIs, you need to do this, you need to do that. Like this is the simplest form, right? Of building agentic workflows literally for free. But then if I moved this to N8N, right? After you've done all this, you've set up your assistant, you have the process in mind, you know how this works, right? Then in N8N, there's a lot of value in there because now you're going to gain scheduling, right? Because now you can use the cron trigger in N8N to schedule this to run every morning or every Friday, whenever you want it, right? You can also use triggers, right? So maybe you can say that when you receive a new email or when someone fills out a form or like there's a new document or integrations, like you can also have integrations as well, right? You get a benefit of now adding other tools. But with adding other tools also comes with cost because now you have to pay API keys. Things may break. You don't know, right? So this is like the simplest form of agentic workflows you can think about, right? And then you now have to think about error handling, retry logic, reliability, and all that, right? So I'll say that if you're starting, you don't have so many complicated stuff. You can start like this and then can move on from there, right? So yes, moving this to N8N will give you a lot of value, right? Because you can now make this automated and you don't have to manually always trigger it. I also know that like it comes with setup time, it comes with cost and all that, and it comes with maintenance as well, right? So I want you to think of it like this, right? If you are trying to build like simple agentic workflows like this inside Claude Code, I'd say it's the easiest to manage. If you want to like move this into N8N, it definitely scales a lot. It would run automatically, but you should know that it would come with its own cost. At the end of the day, it's the same brain you're using. It's just like a different operating mode. I'll just encourage you to try this out. Let me know how that works for you. Leave your comments in the comment section below if you're going to try this out. Please don't delete any important files on your computer because then that's catastrophic. But yeah, I mean, you just build a manual trigger assistant that behaves like an agent and it plans, it produces real work, it saves memory, and it tells you what to do next. So the next step, like I mentioned, you can decide to automate this, you can decide to add in some schedules, and that's where you can use tools like N8N. But it's very important that you don't skip this step. It's very important that you try to do this manually, let it work reliably before you go ahead and like automate it, right? Because if you just go ahead and automate it, then it may break or it may fail quickly, right? So yeah, as usual, thank you for watching this video. Like I do have a lot of tutorials on building AI agents, AI automations inside N8N. If you're interested in watching any of my videos, then I'm going to leave a few of them on the screen so that you can check them out. If you're new to N8N, this beginner friendly courses will be very useful to you as well. But yeah, thank you for watching and see you in the next one.